Hello, everyone. Welcome to the RD to RD live show. Of course, I'm Megan Boitano, and I'm really excited to talk to Katrina Pace today, otherwise known as Kat. And we're talking about writing words that sell. And over the last couple of years as a new online business owner, I have come to appreciate the ability to write words that connect with an audience. And I'm the first to say that I am learning. It's definitely different than the writing I did in the past, publishing journal articles. But yet it's also very exciting as you improve. And so I thought bringing this topic to our community would not only, of course, benefit myself, since this is an area that I'm actively working on. It's a hot topic when it comes up in Facebook groups or in other areas. So I thought, let's do it live on the show. So, Katrina, do you like to make Katrina or Kat? I should have.
Either.
Okay.
I respond to anything.
Well, I appreciate you being here today, and I'm curious about your specialty now is writing copy for wellness businesses, and I know as a registered dietitian we often have a windy path to how we end up where we are. So tell us a little bit about how you got to where you are and your background as a dietitian.
Well, this wasn't where I saw myself at all, which is really interesting. I think if you used, sorry, I've got a dog whining in the background if you can hear me, but hopefully you can't because I've got a proper mic. My career bases itself around the word pivot quite nicely. And I think the thing that made it quite easy to make those switches in my career, which ended me up here, is that we are really lucky to have a profession that we can start as one thing and end up 5 spaces over. There's just so much we can do with the qualifications that we have. All the skills that we're trained in just don't stay in that one little box like potentially being a vet does. Mm-hmm. So today, this year, I've been a dietitian for 25 years, so I'm feeling old now. Yeah.
You're very wise, not wise. It's wise.
I'm full of knowledge, but so I've pivoted mainly through clinical. So hospital and community were my career back in the UK and here as well in New Zealand. And I pivoted between specialities quite a bit. So after getting a really good generalist training, like I could do anything, I focused on elderly care for many years. And then after a series of unfortunate events with my family, I ended up pivoting. And 1 minute I was elderly care and wound healing. And the next minute I was medical gastroenterology. And again, because I got that generalist background and I'd got all those skills that we have as dietitians, I could pivot really easily. So I ended up at the local hospital working in outpatients, and I got known as the dietitian who could treat the really, like if the gastro team didn't know what to do, they ended up with me. So functional bowel was my thing. And as if that wasn't enough, I was growing 2 girls. I was working at the local university, setting up a new master's level dietetic course. So for 40 years, we'd had only 1 training school in the whole country. And then I came on board to get the second. We now have 3. And did my own MSc research at the time. Through my clinical practice, I'd focused very heavily on health literacy. Mm-hmm. And health psychology was fascinating to me. So as soon as I came to write my own MSc thesis, the first comment I got back from my examiners was it was an easy read, which made me put my thumbs up. So after that, I set up my own private practice, and that's where I learned my marketing. So graduating in 1994, we weren't taught about private practice. We weren't talked about marketing. Social media just wasn't there. Internet was almost there, kind of thing. It wasn't for general consumption. So I had to teach myself a lot. And I think that's where most people who go into private practice They have to start from their own. We don't really get taught it. And what I worked out really quickly was that what the marketing experts were saying wasn't working for the wellness field. So all the kind of find the pain point and slam it, that wasn't going to happen. I felt really uncomfortable. I felt more than uncomfortable, felt like I needed to go and have a shower. So I developed my own way of doing things, and that was working out that what I was writing and how I was writing was actually affecting people, and bringing in the health psychology. There's another type of psychology called neuromarketing as well, and kind of bringing all that in, and health promotion too, that I knew I could do it.
Mm-hmm.
And then in 2017, I made this big decision that I wasn't going to do clinical practice anymore. I was seeing so many wellness businesses around me fail or struggle or just absolutely kind of lose hope because their message wasn't getting out there. And they had really, really strong wellness messages. And I knew what I had, I could help them get that message out. So again, pivoted and set myself up as a copywriter, and developed kind of portfolio working with people. And so now that's why I hide behind my computer, write websites, emails, opt-ins, those kind of things. So these wellness businesses can get their message out. Everybody says it's a crowded marketplace for wellness. There's so many people out there. They're all doing this. It's not. It's not crowded. It's not crowded because there are so many people out there who now value their own personal health and their own wellness and what that means to them. Mm-hmm. And rather than sitting in front of the doctor, they're seeking help themselves. Right. And so the problem is that we're not being as specific, as focused in our messaging. Ooh. So that's what I do. Sorry, that wasn't an earthquake. That was a dog.
Yes.
Leaning against the table.
Well, you've certainly captured my interest here, and I'm really excited to dive into this idea of writing in a way that what we need as a health profession might be a little bit different than maybe, a different, selling something else. So I'm kind of curious to dig into this specific approach that you've developed, but let's start big and we'll kind of get a little bit more granular as we go through today. So you talked about, we throw the word copy out, we throw the word copywriting out, and what exactly what does that mean? And a little bit about your specialty in this type of writing. What are we really talking about what are we going to be talking about today? Copy.
What are we going to be talking about? What we're talking about is words that sell. And we have two words for words in marketing. One of them is copywriting, not copywriting, copywriting. The other one is content writing. The line between them is getting more and more fuzzy, and I'll explain a bit why later, but basically copy is a fancy word for words that sell. So it comes from, do you remember when you were growing up? I'm old. Mm-hmm. We used to get letters in the mail from Reader's Digest or from kind of bed stores, mm-hmm. which were long form. They were these really long, maybe 2 or 3 page letters, brochures telling us why we needed a new bed, why we needed all these things. And that's the origins of copywriting. So it's advertising writing. Content is kind of what it says on the packet. It's content. So it's got a different purpose. Its main purpose is often to inform or to kind of change your ideas. But in years gone by, they were 2 very different spheres. So a blog writer would be a content writer. Somebody who writes websites or emails would be a copywriter. If it was like just your general newsletter, it would be a content. But really nowadays, there's not so much difference between, and that's because we're having to constantly sell. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I almost feel the age of the internet and social media and attention spans, it's almost, they don't want to put up with lots of content. Nobody, so that blurring of, like, for some reason, a really big light bulb. I don't know if anybody else who's listening in, this concept of copy versus content and how that's being blurred really resonated with me. So if it kind of did with you, definitely drop in a little comment to let us know that that's something that you feel as well. But you were starting to talk about, you know, copywriting versus content. Can you talk a little bit about those two items as we get a little bit more specific into websites and email? There's so much different writing that as a business owner we have to do, and then we'll start talking about, start digging in more.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons why it's become a lot more blurred is actually because we've got so much pieces of information flying at us. It's actually made it easier for us. So we're not having to make too much of a difference between copy and content writing. So kind of the blogs and the emails, the things that sell. Because if you think about how many pieces of information we're bombarded with every day, technology gives us access to constant information. If we're not watching the TV, we're on our computers, we're on our cell phones. We have to subconsciously work out a way to filter everything. Otherwise, we're just stuck. We don't know what to process, so we try and process everything. But we're actually already programmed to filter those messages. Since man first walked on the earth, we've been programmed to work out what helps us survive and what helps us thrive. So we've got to know where our next meal is coming from. We've got to know how to keep our kids from being eaten by saber-toothed tigers so that they can go on and have kids and everybody thrives. So we've actually got that function in our brain already, but we now use that kind of brain programming to help us filter through this massive adverts, content, everything that we see out there. And so writing words that sell is not actually writing words that sell. It's actually writing words that help people know how we can help them survive and thrive quickly. Because with all that information, one of the filters we have is, unless it speaks to us, we're going to filter it out. So unless that saber-toothed tiger's coming straight for us, if it's going that way, we're going to leave it. So we've got to make those decisions really quickly. Now, when I started writing website copy, they said, oh, well, you've got kind of 10 to 30 seconds of somebody's attention before they scroll on by. 5 these days. So if you're not capturing somebody's attention within 5 seconds, and if it's on a Facebook feed or an Instagram, it's faster. You've got to get it like that. Somebody's got to get you. And so as things go to extremes, that programming that we already have in our primal brain that tells us fight or flight, survive or thrive, we're using that techniques because if we paid attention to every piece of information. So there's a whole heap of psychology out there. It's called neuromarketing. And it takes place behind the written word. And that's one of the things that if you're sitting down to do your own writing, you often miss. What you may get to is something doesn't feel right about what I'm writing, but you're not sure what or how to fix it. And because we're having to filter almost every piece of information we come across, everything we write for our businesses, and I'm not just talking businesses, I'm also talking, if you're sitting in a hospital clinic or a patient's bedside in the hospital, your job is selling a message. So it may not be selling to get money, it may be selling it in a way that somebody's going to go, I need to take that action. So it actually applies to everything we do. But kind of baseline, if it's a blog, if it's a web page, social media post, everything, to sell our message, our goal has got to be to make somebody listen because it's a survival or thrival if they miss it.
So let's talk about that. You mentioned, Youre started the business that you have now is because you were seeing other, health professionals struggling. Yeah. So what is the kind of that step one, that first thing that is most important that, you kind of start with?
I think the thing you start with is knowing really, in real details, who you're talking to. So I can write anything. One of the things I started with was by saying to clients, if I do my job really well, you don't know I exist. And it's not because I write with their voice, it's because I write with the voice of their client. And that's really important. A lot of the time we go, I need to put a blog out. And then you focus on content, on what topic am I going to write on, rather than who am I going to write for. So really the foundation for everything to do with marketing or writing is to know who you're writing for. And often it's called a niche these days. We all get very, we need a niche. Everybody tells me I need a niche. And I've been having a few conversations recently with people who are getting very, they know they need a niche. Well, you don't actually. You can be quite a good generalist, but your niche doesn't necessarily need to be a person. It doesn't need to be 25 to 35-year-old woman with irritable bowel syndrome, for example. It could be shift workers. But the problem that you're talking to, the issue they have in common, is that they want quick, easy meals when they come back from their shift. So niching, yes, on the person, but also on what they have, what a group of people have in common, what their goal is. And we call those tribes. And it works brilliantly in the wellness field because we gather these people to us, we help them in their journey, and then we move them on. It's what we do as health professionals. But everything starts with knowing who we want in our tribe. And so the first place to start, the more effort we can put into knowing our people, knowing our tribe, the easier everything in marketing, in selling your message, in selling a product, in selling a service, it all just starts to fall into place.
So you kind of, at the beginning, talked about feeling not comfortable with using the pain points and talking to people's problems. How did you, when you're differentiating that from kind of the statement that you just made, is it just the similar message stated a different way? Really, can you make that a little bit more granular there?
Well, I think we have a really high radar as dietitians for what sounds salesy. So if you think of it as we're coming at it from, we're really scared of selling. If we're not scared of selling, maybe we should be a bit more. So you can be overconfident, you can be underconfident. But the thing is that we've got to realize that we're coming at it from one angle. We're coming at it from an angle of, I'm a helper. Most of us are. That's why we're in this job. That we want to help people. If we do it we can't do it for free because we need to survive and thrive. But we have a really high radar for telling if something's salesy. Now, put yourself in your clients and your customers' shoes. They're looking for help. They're out there, they've got a problem, they're looking for a solution. You don't go out generally just one, I mean you do, because that's why we have Pinterest. You just idly look at things. That's how I use Pinterest.
I don't know.
But most of the time we're actually looking for a solution or for a problem. It may be that I want to crochet myself some gloves because I get cold fingers typing during the winter. I'm looking for something that's going to solve that problem. It may be that I've got chronic fatigue. I haven't got out of bed for weeks, but I know I need to be able to prepare meals. I search for that solution. I don't search for a dietitian. I search for a solution. So unless we're selling that solution, our clients are looking for people who are selling the answer to their problem.
Right.
And so it's a very fine line. So usually how I describe it to clients is, and this is mainly for emails, but it works across all areas of marketing, is we come from this viewpoint of high radar. We can tell when something's salesy. Our clients are coming from this viewpoint where they want something, they want a solution, they want to buy, or they want to get information.
They want to be sold to.
They want to be sold to. And whether it's not necessarily products or services, it can be information.
Right.
So I want you to kind of, and kind of anybody who's watching, you've got to remember it's not just physical things or services. It's also information that people want. So it could be, as I said, sitting down with somebody at a hospital bed. Mm-hmm. It could be a food service manager that you want to do something different. Whatever your message is, you've got to sell it. So you've got to pivot again and come at it from your client's point of view. So here's my rule of thumb. If you write something or say something that makes you want to go and have a shower, and you feel really, you've gone too far, okay? Yeah, you have gone too far. In the olden days, that's what marketers used to do. They used to get you to that point, because if you feel that icky, you'll do anything to get rid of that icky feeling. If you feel like that, you've gone too far. If you're sitting there and you've kind of written an email asking people to join up for a course or come along for a free session, and you're going, oh yeah, I'm really happy with that, you've probably not sold it enough. But if you're sitting there and you're slightly twitching and feeling slightly uncomfortable, you've probably got it just right.
I hope you'll have some examples for us to kind of show us some of this stuff.
An example would be, if you don't lose weight, you're going to have a heart attack and die. So buy my shake and you won't have a heart attack and die. So that's a fairly obvious one, which is like, yeah, no, you're too far, because you've just gone in there. You'd have about 5 sentences in there saying, if you have a heart attack and die, it's going to be a painful death. You're never going to be able to go and do all these things. So you really focus in on all the fails. If you sit there and go, hi, thinking about the kind of the fail aspect, that you've got to bring a little bit in. It's like making bread. So you need a little bit of salt in the bread. Otherwise, it doesn't make bread properly. If you put in too much, you end up with a stone slab. So you've got to use the right amount. So saying something like, it's summertime. Can you imagine yourself, everybody's running around the field with their kids, but you're sitting there and you're watching. Wouldn't it be amazing next summer if you're out there, you're running around with them, you're able to chase your kids, they will never get away with anything again. Here's my shake.
Right.
So you're putting it into a context. You're not going, you're going to die, you're going to die, you're going to die. Bad things are going to happen, but you're painting a picture of a goal that would happen that's in a favorable light. And because you're painting that picture, years of health psychology, and look at any successful health promotion kind of program, what they focus on is the goal achieved, the dream desired, and you pitch that first. You then have to add in a little bit of salt, because if we don't say something like, yeah, you're kind of, there's no doubt about it, if you're carrying so much weight that it's going to have an impact on your bones, on your heart, we have to bring in a little bit of salt. But you focus on the dream.
Right. So I appreciate that distinction between going too far and that you do need to be a little bit uncomfortable. I think that we know we're growing when we're a little bit uncomfortable, right? If it scares you a little bit, you should probably step into that, and it won't be so uncomfortable next time. But you told a little bit of a story in that example, and I know you use kind of a story brand approach. Can you talk to us a little bit about what that means, and then maybe we could use some of this time here to start, giving some more specific examples and move there.
Yeah. So I've actually just been out to the States. I got back a couple of weeks ago. It was really hot. Oh boy, you're suffering this summer. I was in Nashville. I think we got to nearly 100 degrees one day, and it's the middle of winter here in New Zealand. So I was, hence the scarf. And it's also 6:25 in the morning, so it's dark out there. So story. So I was in America for the Story Brand Certified Guide training, and story is a big thing that a lot of marketers are talking about these days. But there's actually two different types of story that we talk about. The first type of story is bringing your writing a story that draws your reader in. So it is writing a story. The second type of story, and this is the type of story that Story Brand, building a story brand, the podcast, the book, the online courses, the in-person courses, all those kind of things, is actually based on writing your marketing material using the framework that really good stories are built around. So on the top level, it seems like the latest fad, but actually, I think it's something we need to pay attention to as wellness professionals, because if you talk to a lot of psychologists and social workers as well, they use something called narrative theory. It's a psychological, it's like kind of cognitive behavioral therapy. It's a psychological framework that draws somebody into a story so that they can empathize with it and put themselves into the story. So it's a very strong marketing technique. But it also, again, if we go back to what we're health professionals, we're wellness professionals, our job is to help somebody and kind of give a transformation, move them on, that we want to be able to convey our message, given the fact that we've got kind of that time to do it. We've got less than 3 seconds. And so being able to draw somebody into a story that actually talks about them is a really clear way of talking. And I'll do a screen share later. I've actually set up a website template to demonstrate this for you as well. But story is a very powerful way, certainly in wellness, of bringing people into your story. Not your story, their story, but without them realizing it some of the time until the end. And then they go, oh, I get that. So if you think of some of the big movies around, so in the olden days, it would be something like Star Wars. So most people in the universe have heard of Star Wars. So
in this galaxy.
In the galaxy, you're right. So think of it.
I have a 10-year-old boy, so I've certainly heard of Star Wars.
I have a husband and 2 daughters who are now bigger nerds than he is about this, but there you go. If you think of the characters, Luke Skywalker, the hero. Yoda, the guide. He's got a mission. So Luke Skywalker's got to go, and he's got to go and save everybody. But when we first meet him, he's really weak. Right? He's not a hero. He's problemed. And then Yoda comes on and goes, I've been there and done it. I've helped other people become Jedis. I know exactly how to do this. So this is an example that Donald Miller uses in the Building the Story Brand book. And what his job is to take Luke Skywalker and go from this weak little creature and transform him into somebody who will blow up the Death Star and save the galaxy from the Empire. And he does it. And he becomes a hero. But that's at the end of however many movies they're up to.
Yeah, so how do we do that in like an email campaign or on our website?
Exactly. And that's kind of where this framework comes in. So this is not telling story. This is using how stories are built. So that example I gave you of having a hero, having a guide. The guide's got a problem. He's got a problem called Darth Vader. If he's got to become a Jedi, he's got to go and blow up the Death Star, and then he gets a success, which is saving the galaxy and getting rid of the Empire. So you've got an email sequence in front of you, or even just in one email. And if you write down on a piece of paper with a felt tip pen or on a computer, if you're younger than me and don't have kids with felt tip pens. Who's your character? My character is a businessman who is traveling a lot, but has just been to the doctor. And so he's traveling a lot. He's just been to the doctor. Okay, what's his problem? His problem is his doctor's just told him he's pre-diabetes. And now his problem is, I don't have any information. Any information I find is confusing.
That's scary.
It's scary. I don't know where to begin. How on earth do I do this if I'm traveling kind of every week, every second week for a week? Okay, what can you do? Well, I'm a dietitian. I have 20 years experience under my belt of working with men, businessmen, and helping them do weight loss, pre-diabetes. If you can use testimonials, you could use a testimonial to back that up, or you can say, I've given advice which has been published in, and then you have those magazines, or I've done corporate wellness programs for, here are these people. Okay, so what's going to happen if he doesn't do this? Well, otherwise you're going to remain stuck, you're going to remain confused, and you're going to go back to your doctor in 6 months and you'll have diabetes. Or here's the plan. You give me a call, we set up an interview, and we put in place a plan that suits you for when you're traveling, and you can stop feeling confused. And they go, oh, wow. Because you've spoken very directly. So if you've written that process down of who the character is, what their problems are, how you can be the guide, what the plan is that they do, that little bit of salt failure, that lots of success, that painting the picture, that there'll be successful business people who don't have to think twice about the meal they're going to get, they won't need medications, all those things. Then you talk to them, and you transfer that into an email. And how do you do that? Well, you can take one paragraph each. So if it's just, say you're sending out one email to somebody, it may be that they've emailed you and said, I want to see you. You can use that format to lay out the problems that they're talking to. So they've phoned you for a discovery call. You send them an email back going, it was lovely to talk to you. I see what you're trying, you're really confused about this. So you're really confused about how to eat when you go abroad traveling. You're worried because your doctor said that you've got pre-diabetes. So that's a problem. I can help you because this is what I put in place. So I've worked with people before. I know I could help you. The plan is, let's book you in a session. We'll do 5 sessions. Over these 5 sessions, we'll look at this, 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 and this. And then you paint this picture of the success.
Right.
And so you can do it in one email, or you can use that framework again to guide a sequence. So you talk about the problem and how you give the solution. You frame it all in those words that the character would use as well. So you use that framework. Now, that was an awful lot of information in a very, very short space of time. So at the end, I've got a couple of places that you can go and find information, including the Building a Story Brand book and the free podcasts.
That's
so
awesome.
Listen to the first 7 podcasts of the Building a Story Brand podcast, and it will lay out exactly that framework for you. So you don't need to remember it all. Don't make lots of notes. You can rewatch it. It's really good to rewatch the videos. But that's how we could use it, for example, in an email.
So I know you had some things that you wanted to share. So I want to be cognizant of time because we've got about 10-ish more minutes. So I wanted to give you time to share some of the things you wanted to jump on and screen share. Our time always flies on these live shows.
Right. So I'm going to bring up the screen share.
Okay.
That's the one we want. There. Okay. So where am I? Let's get us to here. Okay, so this is a website mock-up that I've put together to help show clients, or I'm putting it as an example into a course that I'm writing. So one of the biggest bangs for your buck you can probably get from me at the moment is to go and look at your website. So a lot of you out there, you'll have your own websites because it's how we connect these days. And there are common mistakes the whole way through. So what I'm going to focus on just for a few minutes is your homepage. And I want to show you this example. Now, reading the words here, you really quickly know what she does. She's a family life coach. She's not just a life coach, she's a family life coach. But you also know who she works with. She works with families and the immediate success. So she brings families together forever. So all on that header, you've not got anything which says, food tastes great. Well, that doesn't mean anything to me. You've not got anything which says, just Anna Truce Miller, family life coach. And then on your header, on that first section of your website, you are telling people why they should survive and thrive. Now, if I don't have a family, or if we're quite happy together, then I move on. I don't waste my time. But they're not your clients in any case. You want to be focusing on the people you can help. So
the saber-toothed tiger is running at them, and they're running at you.
Tiger is coming fast. If it's going that way, I don't care. I don't care if the saber-toothed tiger is running towards somebody else's family. My family. So you're not going to sell your product, your services to people who aren't looking for that type of help.
I like it.
You've got to be so clear with the people who you can help. So the main thing that you can do is make sure that speaks to. Now, I'm not talking about I can help. I'm just using weight loss because it's such an obvious, good example. I help you lose weight. Lovely. Paint what that looks like. So she could have written, I help families. I am a family life coach. I help families. But that actually isn't a picture. The picture is you're bringing your family together forever. That's a really good visual way of the success after the success. So what's this tangible thing look like in their life? Okay. When we scroll down, we see right there and then a schedule a call button. That's the action that you want somebody to take. And you go, oh, I can't say that, but they don't know anything about me. This may be the 5th time on your site. So it's really important to tell them right from the get-go, this is the action you want them to take. I'm going to scroll down. So as we scroll down, I've gone, oh, okay, so I need a family counsellor, a family life coach. So tell me a little bit more. So I tell them a little bit more. But if you see, I'm not telling them big blocks of text. I'm telling them, these are actually only 1 or 2 sentence paragraphs. And I'm telling them why this matters. So many families find themselves living in a war zone. I'm painting that picture. They want to make changes, but are feeling overwhelmed. So I'm bringing in that bit of salt. As a life coach, I focused on helping families. So I've said how I can help them and what it looks like. Communicate without fighting, resolve your differences, all these things down here. There's something sneaky I've done in there. And that is when I talk about they, I'm talking negative. When I'm talking about you, I'm talking positive. So I can help you become a happy family versus many families find themselves living in a war zone. That's again psychology. I don't want to, you're not telling me bad things about me because I'll stick my head in the sand and run away. But if I say they are doing this, you go, oh, do you know what? I feel that. That's just what I have. You allow them to empathize, and that draws them into the story. So after you've got them on to stay on your site, you're getting them to scroll down and you're painting a little bit more of a detailed picture, not too much information. And again, you're telling them what to do, schedule a call. Then you're giving them a plan of what to do. So we're telling them, how do you bring your family together forever? So again, you're painting the positive, the dream achieved, not the stop your family fighting. Mm-hmm. And I've given them kind of 3 or 4 things that they need to do. Now, it could be how they book a session with you. could be the results they see from that session. It could be that you set it up as a stage thing, or it could just be separate paragraphs, but you're telling them what to do. Mm-hmm. Because the worst thing that happens is you go on a website and you have no idea what to do next. To say, well, what do I do? Do I book a call? Do I go to your about page? You want to keep that story going.
Yeah. Do you feel, the idea of having almost a long form landing page of sorts as your homepage seems to be kind of a general structure?
So you actually, as a first line, setting this kind of template up as a one-page landing page before you get everything else sorted out, you can do it. And I've worked with plenty of people who have just had that one page. Because as long as you're saying the right words, people will read it. Having things like opt-ins are great because you've given them an action. You've said, I want you to do this, this, and this, or I want you to schedule a call. But sometimes people don't. So it's really important to have some kind of opt-in. And I'm sure that kind of everybody's worked this one out by now. You get some value. Here's it from our point of view. So we're the business person. We're showing value. We're establishing authority. We're giving them something that they really want. And so we're drawing them into our tribe. We're not giving clickbaity titles that don't actually deliver the goods. Clickbait is only clickbait if it doesn't just deliver the goods.
Right.
So you've got to make sure you deliver the goods. The easiest way to think of things like this is, and if you look at this example here, she wants people to come and join her family coaching program. What's one step before that that's some value? So they're not ready to book that. Okay, I want to show I know what I'm talking about by giving them some strategies to help them achieve what I want them to book. Okay, so she's gone for 7 days, 7 proven strategies to start moving back to communication. So it's one step before when they come and see you. And that's a really quick and easy way to think of what your opt-in should be. Now, we are out there for connection, regardless of whatever people say. We really need to connect with people. Facebook, Instagram, that's why they're so successful. Certain ethnic cultures feel this an awful lot more. So I'm in New Zealand we have the native New Zealand people are called Maori. The Maori, the culture is you've got to know somebody. The whole kind of when you introduce yourself to somebody talks all about your ancestry. So even on that landing page, giving a really brief snippet about who you are brings that connection in. But if you read it closely, and if you're watching this on a replay, then you'll be able to pause now, read closely, because it actually doesn't really talk about her at all. It actually talks about her tribe's problems and how she can help.
Yes. Yeah? Yes. When I help people with RD to RD and rewrite their bio.
I don't care.
It's not about you. They don't really want to learn about you. They want to learn about themselves through you. Right.
So what you can actually do is go on, stop the video after we've all finished. Go and watch it on replay. Is literally copy this. You can do that. You can go away and just copy the essence of what I've written in here, obviously in what matters to you, but that's how it's written.
Awesome. Thank you for that.
And then she's used a testimonial. Just be aware, some countries, some states, we have problems with using testimonials, how we use them. We can't do it in New Zealand for dietitians, but there you go. And then you just finish with a really strong call to action. Are you ready to get started? And again, we've used a dash of pain in there. But this is your homepage.
Got it.
This is a clarity that you can get of the message that you can provide. And it all starts with your header. So thank you for letting me share that with you.
Wow,
I hope it's a really good demonstration of just everything I talked about for the previous half hour.
No, I agree. So if we were talking about a website homepage. If we look at, from a digital product standpoint, if we're writing a sales page for our course, we're using a very similar approach, correct?
Yep. Yeah, so using products or sales pages, you're using that very similar approach. You're doing things which are the same story, but for example, I would scroll straight down to category pages, for example, if it was an online store. So the screen I'm showing you at the moment, I'd have that information immediately after, like your category pages. But you'd still be having that story there, because I work with clients on Shopify stores, for example, and it's the same format, just slightly reordered with kind of, obviously they want to know. But again, if you've got pictures of nice products there, excuse me, you actually still need to tell them why they should stop.
Right.
Yeah. Product pages, again, the same. Layout product pages the same. Why should they stop and read? What do they get out of it? It's the same format for all of them.
Yeah. That's a really nice way to kind of summarize what you've been talking about. So before we let you go, I want to give you a chance to share a little bit more about resources that you recommend, where you think people should start, and then how they can get in touch with you as well.
Yeah. So I think if you're going to take three things away from this, one is that it's dawn in New Zealand. One is that to keep your client front of your mind. So as long as you're doing everything for them, it's a firm foundation. Write like they would say it. So get all that academic writing out of your brain, write how they say it. If your granny can understand it. And what fits into those two is stalk your client. So go on Facebook groups, see what they're saying on Instagram, on YouTube, all those kind of things, and use the words, the actual words that they use. It's powerful. They can work out that you're their tribe really quickly. So those are the three things. Just get to know your tribe really, really well. 3 places to go for more information. So as I've mentioned a few times, the book Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller is awesome. Like, it's so awesome. I spent an awful lot of money coming out to the States, missing my husband's birthday to do the course. Now, the book's on Amazon, on Kindle, so you can get it in about 30 seconds.
And Audible.
And Audible as well. Yes, they've got the Audible one out now too. But if you don't want to spend the money and you want to suss it out a little bit more, go and look for the podcast. So as I said, there's the first 7 go through the process. If you want to learn more about it, I've got a couple of blogs on my website, which are all about story brand as well. I have my favorite podcasts. The other place, which is full of really good information, is copyhackers.com.
Yes.
So copyhackers.com. And the thing, I suppose, that the kind of one of the last words to say is that unless you're really interested in doing it yourself, like I did, actually it can pay to get somebody else to do it. Of course, I'm going to say that. It's what I do for a living. But here are 3 things to think about. A, it gets the work done. So whether it's writing a website or the email system, it gets it done. The second thing is I can't write for myself. It's taken me years to get my own website looking how I want it to do. You are often too close to see these things. The second thing is, unless you have the time and effort and desire to get totally nerdy about this, like I did, you will miss the psychology. So probably the biggest place to put your effort is actually building a story brand, because it touches on all of that.
That's really,
I think that's my words of wisdom.
Yeah, it's really hard to write for yourself. It's interesting as I, work and help vendors write product descriptions. I can look at my computer all day and not write one for my own, but it's so easy to rework somebody else's bio or work on someone else's things. I think you've really, sometimes that pulling back, yeah, it's hard to see it when you're that in the weeds on your own things.
Oh, it is, yes.
And you had me and it got it done.
Yes.
No, but aren't we all, yeah. So, we've had other people on talking about email sequences, and I think there's, trying to be good at a variety of things. And I think you can get better at writing copy. And I think some of the things you brought up are so invaluable, knowing who. So I always say, if you're closing your eyes, who is that person sitting down at their computer? Why today? Why did they sit down at their computer today and go like, okay, right now, I'm going to fix this right now. And really getting granular about who that person is and why that struggle and what they're searching for helps you like make it personal. So I really think that resonated, as well as using their words. I keep a copy bank of, I ask new members of the Facebook group their number one struggle with digital products. And I have to say, some of it doesn't even make any sense. It's not even about digital products. They don't even really understand what a digital product is. And I would never even think, that would never come to my mind. But I've used that in email campaigns. I've used it in other things, but that's really wise words. So mining Quora or Reddit or Facebook groups or YouTube video comments, there's so much value in that, because then they can listen because you're talking in a way they can hear.
Even Google searches.
Oh yeah.
If you look at what Google brings up as an autofill, that's gold for blog topics.
Yes. I do that with, what is it? Uber suggests Neil Patel. He tells you who's ranking, and I read all of those blog articles, and they're ranking for a reason, and they're usually written in a great way, and it really helps get me in that vibe of writing for the right person. So this was super helpful, really great stuff. Thank you for the example. Wordsforwellness.com. You can find Katrina there. She mentioned things like, having a review of your website, or check out her blog posts. We'll definitely link to those. I love it.
A lot of what I spoke about, giving that website example, if you go on my homepage, I have an opt-in. But it's something that you can just print off, or just look at it on the computer. You can take yourself, it takes you through that process with that homepage. So it's 5 mistakes that people make on their websites, and it's how to fix them as well. So I don't just say you make a mistake because and if you download that and get on my mailing list, I've got a new course coming out in September, which is about writing your own website. So people can't afford me sometimes, and if you're like I was a couple of years ago at the beginning of my private practice, you've got to keep an eye on the dollars. So I'm bringing, finally, after at least 6 months of writing it, getting it out there. So if you download the opt-in, you'll automatically hear when that's going to come out.
Congratulations. That's exciting for you. Definitely needed. So thank you so much for getting up really early, to come on the live show and share about kind of copywriting in a way, writing copy in a way that I don't think necessarily always gets, just really real and down to earth, and not more of the same. I guess I feel like you really didn't just say, this is the pain point, do this. You really dug out a little bit and gave some great examples. And I think a lot of that, making it, if you're walking up to a patient's bedside, like me as a clinical manager walking into a budget meeting where I'm trying to get a new position, I'm selling it to the chief nurse exec. Like, she's got to buy that. And I think I never got turned down ever in a budget meeting. Like, they were like, just leave, Megan, you can have it. That I think some of but it was about speaking in a way that the only action that was really available at the end of that conversation was what I needed. And it wasn't ever about me. So I think it's so much what you're saying is we are always selling. It isn't when you hit your sales page, we need people to take certain action. And the storytelling that you were talking about is a really easy way. I think I'm going to research this narrative theory that you mentioned, because I think it's something I want to learn more about. So thank you.
It's really interesting.
Yeah.
It's one of the corners. So health promotion dietitians may have come across it. Generally clinical, we didn't.
No.
But it's really important.
I mean, just like showing up at rounds and getting the doctor to take your recommendations. We're always selling. So this is awesome. So thank you so much, Kat, for coming on. And for those of you joining in and those of you catching the replay, if you have a comment, drop it in. If we'll follow up and answer questions. So thanks again.
Great. Bye.
Have a wonderful day.